Hello, children. Good morning to all of you. Welcome back to the lesson, the Rattrap, third session. Dear children, we have had two sessions already, and the first session we had the Rattrap, the introduction of Rattrap seller, the peddler, one who walks and sell the rat traps, and how he makes a living. And The second point we discussed is the world is a rat trap. That is the idea that he created, that the entire world is a rat trap. And the third main point is the rat trap seller at crofter's cottage. And the fourth point we discussed is the peddler is caught in a rat trap. Okay, these are the 4 points we have already come across, and in continuation with the lesson, let us come to page number 35. Okay, all of you take page number 35 and listen to. It was late in December. Darkness was already descending over the forest. This increased the danger and increased also his gloom and despair. Finally, he saw no way out, and he sank down on the ground, tired to death, thinking that his last moment had come. But just as he laid his head on the ground, he heard a sound, a hard, regular thumping. There was no doubt as to what that was. He raised himself. Those are the hammer strokes from an iron mill, he thought. There must be people nearby. He summoned all his strength, got up, and staggered in the direction of the sound. So, children, now after being trapped in that wild forest, okay, he could not find a way out, and it was already dark, and he wanted to lie down somewhere, and it would be dangerous for him to be at the forest. Okay, so what did he, and actually he was damn tired, and he was almost collapsed. Suddenly he could hear the thumping sound, regular thumping, and that is nothing but the hammer stroke from a near iron mill. And he summoned. What is the word meaning? Let us say called, summoned. Here it means gathered, summoned. Okay, summoned is gathered, or what you call collected. His called. Okay, summoned his strength, and staggered. What is staggering? Walking with unsteady steps. Write down, please. Stagger means walking with unsteady steps, means with difficulty, as if a drunk person, a drunkard walks. Okay, that is staggering. And thumping noise, heavy dull blow. Thumping, heavy dull blow is called the thumping. Okay, and another difficult word that you can note down is gloom. What is gloom? Anybody? Yeah, depression, in grief, or in sorrow, in despair. Okay, so finally he could listen to the thumping sound, that is something, the hammer strokes, and he understood that there could be an iron mill nearby, and he called, summoned, gathered all his strength, and started walking. And his walking is compared to this staggered. Stagger means walk with the unsteady steps. Okay, now let us continue. The Ramsey's Ironworks, which are now closed down, were not so long ago a large plant with a smelter, rolling mill, and forge. In the summertime, long lines of heavily loaded barges and scows slid down the canal, which led to a large inland lake. And in the winter time, the roads near the mill were black from all the coal dust which sifted down from the big charcoal crates. So, children, now we are getting an introduction about that iron mill or iron that Ramsey's Ironworks. Actually, once upon a time, it was a very large plant with all such paraphernalias and infrastructure. Now the business has come down. So the author is highlighting that ironworks with prosperity. Okay. So could you find any difficult word here? Yeah, smelter. Okay. Write down what is a smelter. A place where metal is melted. Okay, note down. A place where metal is melted. And forge. Another difficult word is forge. What is forge? Forge is a hearth of the blacksmith. The blacksmith will be doing his work. The hearth, the oven. Okay, the hearth. And barges means big boats. Barges, just like ship or big boats. Yes, and the scows is another type of boat with a flat bottom. Another type of boat with a flat bottom. Canal, through which water passes. Okay, so you can very much note down that this Ramsey's Ironworks was a very big plant with all such prosperity. Okay, now in winter time you can see the entire place is black because of the coal dust. Now shall we continue? During one of the long dark evening just before Christmas, the master smith and his helper sat in the dark forge near the furnace waiting for the pig iron which had been put in the fire to be ready to put on the anvil. Every now and then one of them got up to stir the glowing mass with a long iron bar, returning in a few moments dripping with perspiration, though as was the custom he wore nothing but a long shirt and a pair of wooden shoes. So now we are introduced the master smith and his helper in that forge. Okay, so what were they doing there? They were waiting for the pig iron to be heated up so that they could make things out of that pig iron. Okay, so dear children, any difficult words are there? Yeah, pig iron, a type of iron, raw iron, pig iron, right? Pig iron, you can write down, a type of iron. Anvil, that is the iron block on which smith hammers. Anvil, it is in the, we call it is in the anvil, means under process. That's the usage. But here it anvil means the place, the iron block on which the smith hammers. Okay, it is in the anvil. Now write any other word. Perspiration, sweat. Perspiration, after doing hard work you will have dripping perspiration from your body. So like that, both the iron smith and the helper were sweating badly because they were exposed to that hearth, the forge. Okay, nice. Shall we continue? Okay. All the time there were many sounds to be heard in the forge. The big bellows groaned and the burning coal cracked. The fireboy shoveled charcoal into the maw of the furnace with a great deal of clatter. Outside roared the waterfall, and a sharp north wind whipped the rain against the brick-tiled roof. Okay, it is in continuation with the explanation of that ironworks. And children, here you can see that many sounds are created in the forge. Okay, many sounds are below. Word meaning, let us catch hold of those. So word meaning, bellow, what is that? Through which the air is supplied, I think. Contrivance for blowing air into fire, that is called bellow, the big bellow. You may how many of you had been to a blacksmith's shelter? you can see below, through which the air is provided below. The sound of the bellow. Nowadays they are using fan. Most modern fan is there, fan system is there. Things are changing. The big bellow groaned, groaning sound, groaned, and the burning coal cracked. The made a splitting noise. Cracked here means made a splitting noise. Okay. And the fire boy shoveled. What is shoveling? Removed with a shovel. Shovel, like a spade type. It's a different type shovel you might have seen with this concrete workers. The fire boy shoveled means pushed or removed with a shovel charcoal into the maw means mouth or the stomach, not mouth, stomach of the furnace. The stomach of the furnace. Clatter means another sound. The sound created by the metal is called clatter. Clatter. So these are the difficult words that all of you should note down and write down in your notebook. I used to tell you that the first 2 pages is for vocabulary only. Vocabulary should be given more importance, without which you cannot write good English, right? So it is all about the live activity in that ironworks, the different sounds there, and suddenly there came rain, and the rain also made a sound by striking on the roof. Okay, the pattering sound of the rain is also audible. So is it clear, children? Now we'll continue. It was probably on account of all this noise that the blacksmith did not notice that a man had opened the gate and entered the forge until he stood close up to the furnace. Actually, by this time, with this sound disturbance, during this sound disturbance, who made an entry into that ironworks? Blacksmith. Peddler. It was probably on account of all this noise that the blacksmith did not notice that a man, the man here stands for the Rattrap seller, or the peddler we say, or the tramp we say, or the vagabond we say, came there and entered and stood close to the furnace because he was exposed to the rain. Okay, the rain was making noise on the roof. The same rain drenched our peddler, and he was there to dry his clothes, and he was standing near the furnace. Surely it was nothing unusual for poor vagabonds without any better shelter for the night to be attracted to the forge by the glow of light which escaped through the sooty panes, and to come in to warm themselves in front of the fire. The blacksmith glanced only casually and indifferently at the intruder, and he looked the way people of his type usually did, with a long beard, dirty, ragged, and with a bunch of rattrap dangling on his chest. So children, now our rattrap seller is in the ironworks, okay, and vagabond already we have come across. Tramp is otherwise called vagabond, okay, a wanderer. Yeah, then what is his intention of getting into that ironworks? Only for shelter, and he was, I told you already, wet, and he wanted to dry himself by standing near the furnace. Okay. Yeah, well, here it is, forged by the glow, and he was attracted by the fire from the forge, and he reached there, and the blacksmith noticed the stranger entering into the ironworks. And intruder, what do you mean by intruder? Intruder means one who enters without permission, one who comes in uninvited. All of you write down, one who enters without permission, or one who comes in uninvited. Okay. And another difficult word is dangling. What is dangling? Hanging. Dangling, hanging. What is hanging on the Rattrap's chest? Many bunches of rat traps were dangling, hanging on his chest, and he is in rags, torn clothes. He is dirty. He has a long beard. These are the physical appearance of that rat trap seller. Okay, and what did the blacksmith do? He just looked at him indifferently, without any interest. Indifferently, without any interest, without paying any importance or interest, is called indifferent or indifferently. Okay, he asked permission to stay, and the master blacksmith nodded a hearty consent without honoring him with a single word. Actually, the rat trap seller, asked permission. For that, the master blacksmith nodded a hearty consent. Okay, what do you mean by hearty consent? Proud. Okay, all of you mark down. Haughty means proud. Consent, permission. All of you know. Permission. Okay. A haughty permission without honoring him with a single word. In a very proud way or in a haughty way, he accepted. Okay, you can stay in the iron mill. The tramp did not say anything either. He had not come there to talk, but only to warm himself and sleep. Actually, his purpose of getting into that iron mill is nothing but keeping himself warm and keeping himself asleep for some time. Actually, he was very tired moving around the forest. And shall we continue? One more paragraph, we'll do it for the day. In those days, the Ramsey's iron mill was owned by a very prominent ironmaster whose greatest ambition was to ship out good iron to the market, and he watched both night and day to see that the work was done as well as possible. And at this very moment, he came into the forge on one of his nightly hours of inspection. Now we are getting to know about another personality here, that is the iron master, the owner of that iron mill. He is very prominent. What is very famous? Okay, he is very prominent, means very famous person. And what was his ambition? What is ambition? Desire. Okay, children, mark down. Ambition and prominent. Okay, was to ship out good iron to the market. His ambition was to ship out good products from his shop, from his mill. He watched both day and night to see that the workers are doing well. And today he was here to see the work taken up by the workers, and it was one of his nightly rounds of inspection. Okay, children, here we will stop for the day. Before that, we will make a review of what we have already learned for the day. Okay. Actually, the rat trap seller was trapped in the forest. Okay, and but he could see, by the end of the day, in the evening, he could hear some sound, that hammering sound, and he staggered towards that direction. And finally, he reached the Ramsey's Ironworks. There he could see the master smith and his helper both doing with the work, striking on the pig iron. Okay, and both were in perspiration. And there were some other sounds like the billow groaning, or the striking of hammer on the iron, and also the rain that makes the pattering sound on the roof. And during this time, this rat trap seller enters the iron mill. Okay, but his presence was noticed by the iron master, but he looked at him indifferently without any interest. And the iron master gave permission, a hearty permission or a consent, or to that rat trap seller to stay that night. And by then the iron master also reached there. His intention was to see the works taken up by the workers there, and it was one of his nightly rounds of inspection. So dear children, all of you read thoroughly and write down important questions, frame questions by yourself, and write the answers. Okay, with this we wind up for the day.